in selection of index numbers. The one is first you have to select the data. Data selection is one important concept. Then selection of the base period. For example, if I am trying to compare 1883 with 2021, generally there will be no connection in that. It should be somewhat relevant. So the base period selection is one important criterion. Then you have selection of weights. Then you have the use of averages. And then we have the choice of variables. What are we going to compare? We should not compare two different variables. For example, I cannot compare a price with a quantity. We have to choose price in both or quantity in both. So like the choice of variables is one important concept. So these are the things we have to look into while selecting the index numbers. The simplest index number is a price index number. Cost of living index, generally it is called. This is the simplest index number known. Cost of living index. For example, I want to know compared to 2010, what is the cost of living here now? So I select, for example, 5 commodities, say rice, the most essentials, rice, milk, egg, say vegetables, and say entertainment. So these are different quantities, so we have to be very careful. So for example, rice, you keep the quantity fixed and change the price and select the price. Or you keep the quantity variable and select the price. So there are two different ways of measuring the cost of living index or the price index. The simplest thing is just to compare the price. For example, 1 kg of rice in 2018 and 2020. Suppose I take this as the base here. So the price in 2020, suppose I call this as some Pn, this is P0. So Pn by P0 is called the price relative. This is called the price relative. Similarly, you can define quantity relative. So for example, for a constant price, for 100 rupees, how much you bought in 2018? For the same 100, how much you bought in 2020? So Qn by Q0. This is called the quantity relative. There is something called a link relative. That is, successive years are taken. For example, you have P1 by P0 into P2 by P1 into P3 by P2 etc. These are called link relative. That is, successively we are shifting the base here. For example, I am comparing 2018, 2017, then 2019, 2018, 2020, 2019, like that. They are called link relatives. We can also have link relatives related to a base period. That is, Suppose 2018 is compared to 2016, 2017 is compared to 2016, 2019 is compared to 2016. Like that, base year is fixed. But we are taking the different ratios of different years. This is called a chain relative. The simplest cost of living index, CLI, or it's also called the simple aggregative price index. Simple aggregative price index. This is sigma Pn by sigma P naught into 100. What do you mean by this? I add all the prices. Say for 1 kg of rice, wheat, etc. And then divide by the base year prices sum and multiply by 100. So this is the sum of all prices of the items. Generally for a unit measure means for 1 kg, 1 quintal, like that. Similarly, this is sum of all the prices in the base year. This is the compare year, standard year, and this is the base year, sum of the prices in the base year. For example, I have bought 1 kg of rice. This is for 2018, this is for 2020. I bought 1 kg of rice, wheat, sugar, etc. 2018. Suppose this was at that time 42 rupees. Wheat was say 65 rupees. Sugar was 67 rupees. Now this is 43. This is 70. This is 69. So add all these prices. Add all these prices. This divided by this into 100. So 69, 139, 182. Here you have 132, 174. So you have sigma Pn by sigma P naught into 100. So addition is 182 by 174 into 100. So this is a simple aggregative price index for the 2020 compared to 2018. And also this may be 1 kg, but wheat comparison may be only 100 grams, because generally, for example, you take that green chilies. Many people don't buy in kg, so we can compare green chilies for 100 grams per 100 grams. This may be only 10 grams, 5 grams. For example, cashew nut, etc. We don't buy in kg generally. We buy in 100 grams. So per 100 grams. One of them may be in 1 unit, the other may be in another unit, but per unit, whatever price. So this is the simplest step. And the other thing is, there is an inherent defect in this because of this concept, where here it is kg, here it is grams, here it may be liter. Because of that, there is an inherent defect. This is just a very, very simple raw measure. There is another average called the simple average of relatives. Again, you can expect mainly theoretical questions from this chapter, where you don't need to have a big table doing a lot of calculations, etc. Related concepts. So like that only questions will come. Basically, it will be more logical oriented rather than big calculations. So for example, I have rice, say wheat, sugar. I add all these prices and divide by 3. This is the average price. This is called the aggregate index. So take the average price and compare. Similarly, we have a weighted average, weighted index method, where instead of units we attach some weights. Units quantity itself may be a weight, weighted index numbers. So as usual, we have a weighted aggregative index. Aggregative means total. Average means weighted aggregative index and a weighted average index. So from the name itself, you know, aggregate means total. Average means divide by whatever number, total number of items. Now the quantity may be a weight. So what we do, we multiply by sigma WNPL, sigma W naught. Generally we attach the same weight, say WNP naught into 100. So this weight may be price or quantity. So we have something called a last Pierce index. The base year quantities are used as weights. So suppose in 2018, I am comparing now. In 2018, I bought 5 kg of sugar, average per month, 3 kg of onion, tomato 10 kg, for example, this is 30 kg of onion per month, 5 kg of 10 kg of rice per month, and tomato I bought 10 kg per month, sugar I bought 20 kg per month or 5 kg per month. So the quantities are weights. The same 20 kg, 10 kg in 2018 might have cost me sugar, say rice, say 480 rupees. Onion, it might have cost me around, say average around 1000 rupees. Tomato, it has cost me around 1000 rupees. Sugar has cost me around 65,300. 2020, I am taking the same quantity. Now it is 500 rupees. It is 1500. This is 1200. This is say 500. So you multiply 10. Already I have multiplied. This is the unit cost is 48. So we multiply these two. That is what this has come. So I am adding all the price into quantity. So sigma Pn into Q naught by sigma P naught into Q naught into 100. I am keeping the quantity fixed. This is the unit price for 1 kg, 2 kg, something like that. So basically we are calculating the total money spent for the same quantity in 2018, 2020 divided by the money spent for the same quantity in 2020 by 2018 base year into 100. This is called the last Pierce index formula. There is another index called the Pasch's index number. I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Pasch's index. Now the price is fixed constant for 1 kg. How much? In 2018, I bought 5 kg. Now I am not able to afford. I bought only 3 kg. So my onion I bought in 2018 10 kg coolly. Now I am able to buy only 5 kg. So the price is for a fixed price. Different quantities I am buying. That also is possible. So we say price is fixed sigma Pn, say Qn by sigma Pn Q naught into 100. For 50 rupees in 2018, how much I bought? For the same 50 rupees in 2020, how much I bought? So 2020 divided by 2018, always base here is in the denominator. This is called a Pasch's index. There is another index number called the Marshall-Edgeworth. What this combination has done, they have taken the quantity average. So sigma of Pn into Q naught plus Qn by sigma of P naught into Q naught plus Qn into 100. Average is by 2, that by 2 will cancel, so we are not written that. So this is called the Marshall-Edgeworth index. Depending on the accuracy, Fisher had introduced a new index number, and this is very popular, Fisher's index. He took the geometric mean of Laspeyres and Pache. So he said, you take sigma of Pn Qn by sigma Pn Q naught into sigma Pn Qn by sigma Pn Q naught, this into 100. So all the index numbers are generally taken as a percentage. Quantity divided by original into 100. So percentage. The Fisher index is also a percentage. We can also have a price relative method. Then we have a chain index numbers. All this involves a lot of calculation. So I think you have to be patient. Then we have a quantity index numbers. So simple aggregate quantity of for quantity, simple aggregate formula will be sigma of Qn by sigma of Q naught. This is a simple aggregate quantity. You have a base year weighted average. weighted average of quantity relatives. Big word, big phrase. The base year weighted average of quantity relatives. This is sigma of Qn by Q naught into P naught Q naught by sigma of P naught Q naught. So again, they are calculated only as a percentage, so into 100. So you will see that this Q naught will go. So you can cancel the Q naught and say this is sigma of Qn into P naught by sigma of P naught into Q naught. Here I told you already, here I told you, basically we are finding the total money spent in 2020 divided by the total money spent in 2018 and calculating it as a percentage. So this is also called a value based index because we are taking the value spent. So it is called the value index. So for example, I want to know the real value of money. What is the real value of money in 2020? So how much the same money could buy in 2018? How much the same money could buy in 2020? So this is nearly the value of money now. Maybe in 50 rupees, because in our house all the elders used to say, in those days I used to get for 2 rupees 8 idlis. Your great grandfather will say for 1 rupee I got 8 idlis. So like that, for the same money could buy what in what year? The same money could buy what in this year? Now with 1 rupee you cannot even dream of idli. So the same money can buy what in the base year? The same money can buy what in the comparison year? This is called a time series reflection, or you say deflating the time series using index numbers. So we can say the formula as deflated value is equal to, that is actual value of money, is equal to current value by price index of the current year into 100. I hope all of you understand this. For example, 50 rupees. What is the deflated value of 50 rupees? What is the current value of 50 rupees? This one. By price index of the current year. How did you calculate the price index of the current year? Sigma price index. So sigma Pn by sigma P naught into 100. This into 100. This will tell me the deflated value of the 50 rupees. So 50 rupees after all may not be 50 rupees now. It may be only 40 rupees or 30 rupees. The other value of the current value can also be calculated as base price by current price. So this can also be taken the current value. There is another concept called, suppose I say 1980 to 1990. I was comparing. I used 1980 as a base year. 1990 to 2000. 91 to 2000. I used 1991 as the base year. So I'm shifting the base year from 1980 to 1991. So how do you see the shifted price index? So this is the shifted price index. This is original price index by price index of the year to which it is shifted into 100. What does this mean? For example, I take a table. So the year was 1980, say 1981, 1982, 1983. As a sample, we'll take just 4 years. Otherwise, it will feel very bored. The year. So the original price index based on 1980 was 100. This was 104. This was 106. This was 107. This was 110. This is a shifted price index. This is a shifted price index. I am now taking 1990 as the base year. You got 71.4, 74.3, 75.7, 76.4, 78.6. So what is the shifted price index? 104 by 74.3 into 100. Original price index was 100 by 71.4 into 100. There is another concept called splicing a time index. This generally happens when there is a major shift in the quantity weight. For example, previously we were measuring in quintals. Suddenly now we are measuring in kg. Then we use this concept. Or there is a method in the change in the method of calculation. Then we use this. So splicing involves splitting into two different time periods. For example, I am taking 1992, for example, 2000. Till 1994, there was some system. But suddenly in 1996, 94 onwards, 95 onwards, for example, 95 to, we had a different system. So the price index was calculated at two different methods. So what we do, now we are calculating a new price index. This is called the spliced price index. We take 1995 as the base year. That means one part of the series will have the same value, but the other part will now have a new base. So in this case, originally I followed 1990 as the base year. Here also I followed the same. But 1995, there was a new system introduced. So those values will remain the same, but up to 1990 to 94, the spliced price index will have a different value. Because now we are using 1995 as the base year. Then we have to see whether our indices are adequate. Are we actually taking the correct index number? Is our index correct? You can see in newspaper, there are a lot of issues about this index. Many people reject the S&P index. Suppose S&P revises our rating. Moody, S&P revises India's growth rate. Indian government, if this is very less, Indian government will reject this rate, saying the measurement is not correct. Moody regularly releases data for the growth rate of a country. Indian government sometimes accepts it, sometimes it rejects it. So, is the test adequate? Is an index number adequate for our purpose? That is called a test of adequacy. There are 4 tests. The one test is called the unit test, time reversal test, then you have a factor reversal test, and then we have a circular test. So these are the 4 tests to check whether a particular method of calculating the index is adequate. Can it be trusted? Is it reliable? So what is a unit test? In this we say it should be, the index number should be independent of the quantity used or the unit used. For example, 90 in Europe, you know, originally each country had a separate currency. In 2000, they introduced the euro. So whether it is euro or pound or sterling, this should not change. That is called a unit test. Then we have a time reversal test. That is, forward to backward will it work. For example, in this case, in this example, we have started from 1980. We have taken the price index of 1980 with 1990 as the base year. Suppose I reverse this. I use for 1990 in terms of 1980. Is the value changing? Whether the given method will work both ways in time. How do you do that? So the ideal measurement is for a Time reversal test, P10 into P01 should be 1. That means approximately they are reciprocals of each other. So if P01 is going from 1 to 0, 0 to 1, this should go from 1 to 0. So it is a reverse. Last Pierce method and Paget's method, do not go with this. Do not pass this test. Do not clear this test. But Fisher's index clears this test. As I already told you, in one example I told you, basically what are we doing? We are taking the total money spent in 2018, total money spent in 2020 to buy a set of concerts, and then you are taking the index number. So basically the values should not be affected. This is called a factor reversal test. So the total value spent, that value should not change, whatever a criteria you use. So that is called a factor reversal test. That is, if you take the price based index and you take the quality based, quantity based index, it should be same as the value based index. So again, Fisher's index satisfies the factor reversal test. It is called an ideal index number because it satisfies these two. The circular test is based on the measurement of the price changes over a period of years. What do you mean by this? Can this index number survive the shiftability of the base year? Can it accept the shiftability of the base year? So we are adjusting the index number based on the shifted year. So the simple geometric mean of the price relatives and the weighted aggregative with fixed weights meet this test. Even Fisher's index. So the only test which pass this test are the simple geometric mean of price relatives. Simple geometric mean of price relatives. And then the weighted aggregative with fixed weights. These two index numbers pass this test. Already we have told you what is the price relative. So Pn by P0 into 100. This is called the price relative. Pn by P0 is called the price relative. So basically, I'm not going with a long table. So these are the various index numbers. But we'll do one question where we don't have a, we have a table but not a big table. The ratio between the last year's index number and the Paget's index number is 28:27. Now we have a table. So we have a commodity, say X, Y. We have the base here. In this base here, we have the price. And the quantity. So whatever is missing, I call as L and P. Missing quantities we have to fill up. So 10, 5. This is for the current year. We have again price, quantity. This is 2, 5. And this is P2. I hope you all understood the question. The ratio between the last price index and the Paget's index are given by 28:27. So first we need to know what is the last price index method calculation, and we should know what is Paget's index. We know last price index formula is sigma of P naught Q naught P and Q naught by sigma of P naught Q naught into 100. The Paget's index is sigma of Pn Qn by sigma of P naught Qn into 100. What do you mean by this? We multiply the price in the current year with the quantity in the base year, and then we multiply the price in the current base year with the quantity in the base year. So sigma P naught Q naught will be what here? P and Q naught. Current year price is this thing. Quantity is the base year. So this is 20 for the commodity X, 20. Current year price, base year quantity. So sorry, base year price into base year quantity. So 5L sigma of P and Q naught. So all the prices we have to multiply. So 5P and Q naught will be here 5P as it is. P naught Q naught. What is P naught Q naught? Base year price into base year quantity. So 10L plus 5L. So we are going to add 20 plus 5P. This is 10L, 15L. Next, I'm going to extend the table because there is no place. I'm going to extend it here. We have a PNQN, and then we have a P0QN. What do you mean by that? PNQN. What is PNQN? These are all PN. These are all QN. This is Q0, P0. So PNQN. What is PNQN? Current year price into current year quantity. So PNQN will be, so I will try to put it here, PNQN, and then we have a P0QN. So PNQN is price in the current year into price in the current quantity in the current year. So 10. Here we have a 2P. P0QN, that is quantity in the current year, price in the base year. Quantity in the current year, so 5L. And quantity in the current year, so 2L. So this is 10P plus 10 plus 2P. And then you have a 7L. Now ratio is 28:27. So what is the first concept? You have a 20 plus 5P by 15L. 20 plus 5P by 15L divided by ratio. So this 100 and this 100 will go by 10 plus 2P by 7L. This is equal to 28/27. So this L and this L will go. So we have 20 plus 5P by 15 into 7 by 10 plus 2P. This is equal to 28/27. So we have a 7 4 is 28. And then if you solve the equations, you'll get the value. They will ask you a lot of theoretical questions. The factor reversal test is satisfied by what kind of index numbers? Fisher's ideal index, Passier's index, Laspier's index, none. So Fisher's index satisfies. Fisher index does not satisfy what test? Circular test. So like this question can be asked. So there are how many tests of adequacy is there? 4. We use price index numbers to what? To measure and compare prices. Not just to measure prices or not just to compare prices, both to measure and compare prices. The simple aggregate of quantities is a type of, it is not a quantity control, it is a quantity index. It is just used for measuring, that's all. And comparing. It is not used to control. There is a new index suddenly introduced called a Drobische and Browley's method. In this, we take the average. Just like, okay, we'll come back. Drobish and Bowley's method. Drobish and Bowley's method. This index number, we told you already, Fisher's index number is a geometric mean of Laspier's and Pache's. This into 100. This is a geometric mean. What is this number? This is an average, arithmetic mean of Li plus Pi by 2 into 100. So they have asked an interesting question. Sigma of PNQN. This is 249. Sigma of P0 Q0. This is 150. The Pache's index number is 150. Drobish and Bowley's number is 145. Now, what is Fisher's index? Sir, okay. So, what is Laspier's index number? We see what is Laspier's index number. This is sigma of PNQ0 by sigma of P0 Q0 into 100. And this is given as, we do not know, Pache's index number. You will see whether Laspier's index number is given. Pache's index number is given. Drobish and Bowley's index number is given. Okay. Pache's index number we know is sigma of PNQN by sigma of P0 QN into 100, and this is given as, Pache's index is given as 150. Okay, now sigma from here, sigma of P and Qn, here it is sigma of P and Qn is 249. So we have 249 by sigma of P0 Qn into 100 is equal to 150. So sigma of P0 Qn is equal to 249 into 100 by 150. Okay, next. Last payers index plus purchase index by 2 into 100. This is given as 145. So last payers index we do not know. Purchase index we know it is 150 by 2. That means this into 50 is 145, or you can say 145 and say Li plus 150 is equal to 145 by 50. So lashes index is 145 by 50 into, sorry, plus minus 150. We'll check this calculation again. Maybe we are going wrong somewhere. Or you can even do the simple calculation. We can multiply this and then divide by 100. So basically we can get a quick value 29. So using this method we can calculate the other parameters. Lashes index here. So it will be 15. So this will be 5. This will be 83. This will be 2. So this is 166. So sigma of P naught Qn is 166. We can even go by the simple method. Li you take as some A plus B by 2 into 100. This is 145. Root of A into B into 100. This is equal to what? And we know the last payers index. A is last payers and purchase index. So 150 is given there. So we know 150 plus B by 2. Purchase index is, so this is 150 plus A by 2 into 100. This is 145. So we have to calculate this. So A is equal to what from here? So this will be 150 plus A is equal to 290 by 100. So using this, we can calculate A. So this is 2.9 minus 150. We are doing some mistake. Sigma, we'll check the data once again. Sigma of PNQN. Sigma of PNQN is 249. Sigma of P naught Q naught, this is 150. Dash A's index number is 150. D and B's index number is 145. So we see that from the base concept, Fisher's index number is nothing but root of Li into Pi into 100. Drawbish and Bowley's index number is Li plus Pi by 2 into 100. And this is given as 150. So Li plus 150 by 2 into 100. This is equal to 145. So Li plus 150 is equal to 290 obviously by 100. So this is 2.9. And Li will come negative because of this 2.9 minus 150. But the choices given are that means when you substitute in the Li here, it will come negative. Root of negative is not defined. So the values given are 75, B is 60, C is 145.97, and D is none of this. So obviously this is root of negative number which you cannot find. So the answer is none of this. Any questions, please ask. You can post it in the chat. A simple test where we are not going into detail into all this. We are just using the Danish-Bowley's index number. This calculation is not even in the I think material. So we have used it. So please note this. Answer is 145.97. How? But we get a Li as negative number. What is your last place index number? What? How did you calculate? How did you get 145.97 as answer? You can answer in the chat. You want to? Shall I give you the mic? Li is 140. How? What is the mistake I have done in the calculation? Shall I give you the mic? Will you talk? Anish? Are you ready to? Yes? Okay. Yeah, tell me.
सर
Yeah.
सर इसमें ना हमने जो मल्टीप्लाई बाय 100 किया है ना वो नहीं हो रहा इसमें।
तो किस में नहीं होगा?
यस सर। सर जब हमने सोल्व किया था ना, जब यही किया था, जब आंसर सही आ रहा था।
जो भी इंडेक्स नंबर है ना उसको 100 के साथ मल्टीप्लाई करना ही होगा पड़ता है ना। डैनिश एंड बाउली इंडेक्स नंबर भी यही फॉर्मूला है ना, LI प्लस PI बाई 2 इंटू 100, ये है ना फॉर्मूला।
यस सर।
हाँ, ये 100 नहीं है तो जो आप कहते हैं वो सही होगा। ये 290 हो जाएगा, या 145 वो 290 हो जाएगा, और ये 100 नहीं है तो 140 हो जाएगा। मगर फॉर्मूले में तो 100 है ही ना,
यस सर।
तो कैसे नेग्लेक्ट करें उसको?
सर मॉड्यूल में तो यही दे रखा था आंसर 145.97।
नहीं, मॉड्यूल में वो लिखा है डी, जस्ट देखिए। अगर ये 100 नहीं है तो 145.97 हो जाएगा, मगर तो फॉर्मूला में है ही ये इंडेक्स नंबर। मगर मैं एक मटेरियल में भी चेक किया था, डैनिश एंड बाउलिस में वो 100 है। जो सारे इंडेक्स नंबर है उसमें सब ये 100 है। मगर वो 100 को नेग्लेक्ट करें तो वो हो जाएगा। किस? ओके ठीक है, वो 100 को नेग्लेक्ट करें तो हो जाएगा। अगर वो 100 नहीं लिए तो वो हो जाएगा। हम एक बार देख लेंगे कि मटेरियल में डैनिश एंड बाउलिस नंबर इसमें क्या लिखा है। सिर्फ एवरेज ही लिखा है, आप ठीक है, सिर्फ एवरेज ही लिखा है, उसमें 100 नहीं है। फिशर्स इंडेक्स में 100 है। फिशर्स इंडेक्स में वो 100 है, मगर लास्ट ईयर मगर ड्रॉबिश एंड बाउलिस इंडेक्स में वो 100 नहीं है, तो 290 हो जाएगा। वो 290, तो इसमें 140 हो जाएगा। ठीक, करेक्ट, 145.97। किसी किताब में वो 100 लिखा है, किसी किताब में वो 100 नहीं लिखा। Now we go to sets, relations, and this thing. So index numbers will stop. So the final conclusion, Drawbish and Bowley's index, we will not take 100. Li plus Pi by 2 only will take. So this is 145. So this is 290. So we'll get Li is equal to 140. Then you multiply here. So root of 140 into passage index is 150 into 100. So this calculation we can find. Okay, now we'll go to set language and this thing. So I'll try to show you a quick revision of set language. A set is a collection of well-defined objects What do you mean by well defined? Beautiful, smart, all these adjectives are not counted in well defined. Set of beautiful flowers, set of tall people, all these are not counted in well defined. You have to say tall means what? Suppose I say tall means more than 1.5 meters. Beautiful means this kind of color combination should be there. So if you define what is beauty, then it's okay. So by well defined, I should be able to say some particular element is there in the collection or it is not there in the collection. That is called well defined. So the following are examples of subsets. So the objects of a set are called elements. The set names is usually kept in capital letters. The elements of the set are represented by small letters. If an element belongs to the set A, then it is denoted by set of all x in A. If an element x does not belong to the set A, then it is denoted by set of all x is not in A. This is not an element of A. How many elements are there in the set is called cardinal number of the set. So for example, in this there are infinitely many elements. So n of b is infinity. Here number of elements is 5. So n of a is equal to 5. When you write the number of elements, don't put it inside bracket. Only this bracket will. Only this bracket we have to use for a set. There are different ways of writing a set. One is called the roster form or the tabular form. The other is called the set builder form. So tabular form, we list out all the elements. Set builder form, we use a common property and write. Set of all x such that x is a vowel in English alphabets. Set of all x squares such that x is an n and x less than or equal to 5. So how do you read this? Set of all, when we read this, we have to read like the set of all x square such that x belongs to n and x is less than or equal to 5. Less than or equal to 5. So that is how we read. This set we read as, when you read it, you have to read as set of all x such that x is a vowel in English alphabet. So this bracket means set of all x such that. That does not mean immediately people generally ask me, sir, x is not a vowel. How do you say x is a vowel? When I say x is not the letter x, it's a symbol. The sample element is called x. For example, some person x, y or z comes to me and asks, so like that we say x is a symbol for a sample element. The x does not mean literally the letter x. Types of sets: empty set, it does not contain any element. There is no natural number between 1 and 2, so it is an empty set. But if only one element is there, is called a singleton set. Set of even prime numbers, this will have only the element 2. A set having a finite number of elements is called a finite set. Infinite number of elements is called an infinite set. Then we have an empty set. Empty set is generally denoted by, empty set is considered as a finite set. You see the symbols for empty set. If two sets are the same number of elements, they are called equivalent sets. We don't say one set is equivalent. We need two sets for saying equivalent. They are the same number of elements. N of A is equal to 4. N of B is equal to 4. So they are called equivalent sets. Equal sets, if they are the same elements. Subset, a set to be a subset of B if every element of A is also an element of B. The name itself will tell you if A is part of B, it is called a subset. You see that B has extra elements. That doesn't matter. A should not have extra elements if A is a subset of B. So what are the things you have to remember? Empty set is a subset of every set. Why is that? We'll see. Suppose I have a set 1, 2. Suppose I write all the elements as a collection. For example, I write all the sets with just one element. So you will write 1, then you will write 2, then you write 2 elements at a time. So as a starting, we write 0 elements at a time. That is the empty set. That is why we say empty set is a subset of every set. If A is a subset to B and B is a subset to A, then A is equal to B. Here we see that A is a subset of B and B is a subset of A, so A is equal to B. Then we have an interval. For example, I say the price of a Philips TV is between 10,000, example 24-inch TV is between 10,000 and 20,000. It may be anything between these two. It may be decimal, it may be 10,000.01 like a beta price. Or it may be 10,199.99. So it can be any price, it can include decimals also. So we will not be able to say individually these elements are there. So between 10,000 and 20,000 both included, any price might be there. That is called an interval. Open interval means A and B not included, all the numbers between them included. So that is why the whole is there. That means A is not included, B is not included, all the numbers between them included. Closed interval A and B is also included. Obviously, this is called a closed open interval. Then we have an open closed interval. So these are the 4 types of. An interval can never be written in roster form. Suppose I have a 5, 6. Please don't try to write 5, 5.1, 5.2, etc. 6. This is completely wrong. You cannot write in roster form because it starts with 5.00000 for 1 month. You can sit down, say zeros, and then write 1, and then go up to 6. So don't say any roster form for this set. It means all the numbers between 5 and 6, all real numbers. What is a power set? The set of all subsets of a set. How many subsets are there in a set? 2 power n. Please note that empty set is a subset of every set. What is a universal set? A set contains all the other sets as a subset. That does not mean all the sets in the world. In that question, whatever sets are there. Please note, if I ask you what is the power set of this set, you have to write a bracket, write these two. If I just ask you write the subsets, you need not write this bracket. I hope you understand the difference. These are the intervals. All the numbers between -12 and -10 decimals, irrational, rational, everything. But please note, square root of a negative number is not a rational number. It's not a real number. The square root of a negative number is not a real number. Please note that. Write the following intervals in set builder form. Now we are just like addition, multiplication, subtraction in sets. We have union, intersection. This is an example. I write all the elements in A and B, but we don't repeat the numbers. For example, 8 is there in both the sets. We write only once. 6 is there in both the sets. We write only once. The intersection of A and B is denoted by A intersection B. Difference of sets. Common elements only we write in intersection. Common elements only. Difference is from A, remove the elements in B and write the remaining. From A, remove the elements in B. Whatever is there, what is not there, we cannot remove. What is there, we can remove and write the remaining elements. Examples are given. I think mostly self-explanatory. X union Y. 1 we don't write 2 times. Common elements we write only once. So X is a natural number between 1 and 6. 1 not included, 6 included. Here it is 6 less than X less than 10, both not included. So natural number only 7, 8, 9. Don't write interval here because it is given natural number. This is not an interval. So A union B is an empty set. So union three sets union. How do you do it? You write elements in all the three sets, but repeated elements only once. Even if some elements are repeated only in two sets, they write only once. Intersection means common elements. Now I say A intersection B union C. This is A. This is B union C. So common elements between these two will be 7, 9, 11. In this slide there is a mistake. I hope you will find out. A intersection B we have written wrongly. What is A intersection B? It is only 7, 9, 11. Disjoint sets. If A and B are two sets such that A intersection B is empty, then A and B are called disjoint sets. That means there are no common elements. Which are the following pairs of sets is disjoint? The first set is not first subdivision sets are not disjoint because four is common in both. So it is not disjoint. They are not disjoint. X minus y. From X remove the elements of Y, whatever is there, and then write the remaining elements. So B is to be removed, D is to be removed, so A, C. Any questions, please post in the chat, we'll answer. Any doubts? Yeah.
So in questions like this, x minus y and y minus x, is it necessary that always it will be the same answer for x minus y and y minus?
Definitely, no, it will not be. It will not be. It just need not be.
Okay, sir.
Unless the same sets are there, it will not be. Because in x minus y, from x we remove y. For example, here what are the elements of y present in x? F is not there, so B is there. So we cancel that from x. Similarly, what is the D is here. So we cancel that. We write the remaining elements of x. In y, we remove the elements of x and write the remaining elements. So we remove B and D and write the remaining F, G, not from x, from y.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay, sir.
So it will not be said. So generally x minus y is not equal to y minus x. We call this property as a commutative property. It is not commutative. Difference of sets is not commutative. X union y is equal to y union x, that is commutative. X intersection y is equal to y intersection x, commutative. But minus is not a commutative. State which are the following are true or false. So for example, you have a common element, so they are not disjoint. Here also there are common elements, not disjoint. These two are completely disjoint. These two are completely disjoint. Next important concept is Venn diagram. We are going to do numerical sums based on Venn diagram. This is A union B, A intersection B, and disjoint A minus B is empty, A difference B. This is a very important formula. This is what is going to be used. Lot of problems are going to come based on this. N of A union B is equal to N of A plus N of B minus N of A intersection B. If A, B, C are finite sets, very important questions. All these are very, very important. You can expect them definitely. Not only in foundation course, in bank exam, all the competitive exams, you can expect questions like this. In a survey of 400 students in a school, 100 were listed as taking apple juice, 150 as taking orange juice. In set language, there is one English to set language translation. When I say either apple or orange in English, that means A union B, N of A union B. Or we say at least one of apple and orange juice. I drink at least one of the juices, one of orange or apple. That also means A union B. Both apple and orange. This is A intersection B. Neither, there is something called a complement. Already we have seen. A dash is what is there in the universal set, not in A. This is A dash. Elements in universal set, not in A. Elements not in A, but present in universal set. Neither apple juice nor orange juice. That means it is A dash intersection B dash. So please note down, this is the English sentence. In set language, it means A union B. If I say at least one of two things, that means A union B. Both means A intersection. A dash means in A, not in B. A dash intersection B means neither A nor B. So the following information. Now this is number of people who drink at least one of the two juices. The number of students who were taking neither apple juice nor orange juice. That means, but one important thing, at least one, opposite is none. Opposite for none is not both. That is what you must remember. Opposite of none, N-O-N-E, is not both. Opposite of none is at least one. For example, in Mahabharata, Dharmaputra asked, maybe you don't give the full kingdom, give me 5 villages, at least one you give me, at least one. Opposite is none, is refused, that's all, nothing. If x and y are two sets such that n of x is 17, n of y is 23 and n of x union y is 38, find n of x union intersection y. I'll tell you what is the Venn diagram method of solving this, that is very important. Very easily you can solve this. We have two sets. When we say plainly x, we write the number outside. If we write that number inside, that means only x. So this is 23. Totally it is 38. We assume that there is nobody doing, not having anything. So this is 17. We call this as x. So this is 17 minus x. This is 23 minus x. So if you add all the three, you will get 38. So 40 plus x is equal to 38. So x is equal to 2. This is the other way we can do using Venn diagram. Please note that in a Venn diagram, if I write a number outside, it means generally if they speak Hindi, they can speak some other language also. But if I write here, it means only Hindi. They speak only Hindi. Hindi, English. So totally it is 400. So 250 can speak English, 200 can speak English. How many speak both? So again it is 250 minus x. This is 200 minus x. If I add all the three, so 450 plus x is equal to 400. So x is equal to 50. So this is a formula method. But in competitive exams, you can use this. If S and T are two such that S has 21 elements, T has 32 elements, S and T has 11 elements, how many thing has? Generally, in the competitive exam, they will not ask you directly like this. They will say, how many elements are there? How many people are doing at least one? Something like that. If X and Y are two sets that X has 40 elements. So formula. Sometimes they will ask you a question, is this possible? Maybe they will get a negative answer here. So it is not possible. So please be careful. So which set is a subset of which set? All these questions you can avoid. Actually, these proof questions will not come in competitive exams. But this can come. They will ask you whether A is equal to B. It is not necessary. We'll check that. Okay, so if the subsets of two sets are same, obviously the sets are same. So these kind of questions can definitely come. But they will not ask you a descriptive answer, you have to just work it out and say. They can ask you this question. Show that A intersection B is equal to A, and don't cancel the A and A. That is what we are trying to say. Don't cancel the A and A, not allowed. We are given an example. To prove something is not true, it is enough if you give an example. So in the exam, in the rough column, we can try with some example and check. For example, here A intersection B is 0, A intersection C is also 0. But that does not mean B is equal to C. This is a very important question. This can definitely come for a competitive exam. This is the number of people who read at least one of the newspapers. This is a formula method. The number of people who read at least, now we are doing by Venn diagram. The number of people, please read the question. The number of people who read exactly one newspaper. I hope you understand. I will draw this Venn diagram with the numbers here so that you are clear. You have 3 sets, 3 newspapers. You have H, T and I. The number of people who read, totally it is 60. So it is given that 25 people read newspaper H, so I am writing outside 25. 26 read newspaper T, and 26 read newspaper I. 9 read both. First we have to say how many people read all. So that gap we have to write first. 3. Okay. Now 9 people read H and I. H and I together is 9. In that 3 has come here, so 6. Similarly, T and I, 8 people are there, so 5. H and T come here. Oh, H and I, sorry, this is 6. This is 11 minus 3, 8. Now, this number, how many read only Hindi? 8 plus 3, 11 plus 6, 17, 25 minus 17. This is 8. This number of people read only Hindi. 8, 11, 16, 25 minus 16 is 9. This number of people read only T, newspaper. 6 plus 3, 9 plus 5, 14. 26 minus 14 is 12. So how many read exactly one newspaper? 8 plus 9 plus 12. So that is the calculation. I hope you understood. Any doubts, please ask. Any questions, please ask. You can post in the chat. So totally there are 3 people here. This together is 9. Sorry, this together is 9. So 9 minus 3 is 6. Like that it goes. So don't use this letters and all. What I did was easier. It is found that 21 people like product A, 26 like product B. So the Venn diagram is this. Totally 8 liked all the 3. You see that 14 people liked A and B. A and B together is this. So how many of them liked only A and B? Exactly 2. So they can also ask you the question exactly 2, exactly 3, like that. So what is a complement? In probability it is the A bar. So given a universal set and 2 or more sets, the complement of any set in that collection is a set of elements which are not in A but are elements of the universal set. So other than A in the universal set, what is there? Remove the from the universal set this, what is the remaining? That is the complement. Please understand, A union B whole complement is not the same as A complement union B complement. So please be very careful. This is a warning. Please be very careful in this. A union B whole complement is not same as A complement union B complement. This is the law. This is called De Morgan's law. U dash is empty set. Empty set is complement is universal set. If I take 2 times complement, you will get the same set again. This is not always true. Only here it is true. When you write a whole complement, don't apply the complement inside separately. Wrong. Hello, mic testing 1, 2, 3. A minus B whole complement is not equal to A complement minus B complement. Don't do this. So with that, we'll come to the end of set language. We'll cover topic for today. We'll revise relations and functions tomorrow. Next class. Next class, we'll try to do relations and functions and maybe sequences and series. Any questions you can ask. You want to be unmuted? Okay. Yeah, please ask a question. Hello. Yeah, any questions, please ask. I have unmuted you. Okay, thank you.